Tamlin Summerford Tokawengoa. My name is Tamlin, and today in our activities we're going to be investigating anthropogenic changes in pH in the ocean. The main source of carbon dioxide is in our atmosphere. Naturally, there is an equilibrium between the CO2 in the atmosphere and the CO2 in the ocean. But with anthropogenic changes like the burning of fossil fuels, we have an increase in the CO2 in our atmosphere, and this changes the equilibrium between the atmosphere and the ocean. The ocean is amazing. It is able to absorb CO2, which is great because as we increase CO2 in the atmosphere, it can absorb some of that, but the ocean can only absorb so much. So in today's exercises, we will investigate these anthropogenic changes and have a look at how marine life might be impacted. So for this activity, we're going to explore how the increase in atmospheric CO2 changes the pH of seawater. So we have 2 containers with 1.5 litres of seawater in each. If you can't access seawater, you can use fresh water, but we've got seawater today. And we're going to have the straw, so make sure you've got a straw, that's very important. And then we need something to measure pH and temperature with. So you could have a thermometer and a handheld pH meter. Today we have a joint pH meter with a temperature probe, which we're going to be using. So before we do anything else, we're just going to test the temperature and pH. And so you'll notice that I'm just moving the probe slowly. That's for the pH probe to accurately read. Now that we've measured the temperature and the pH, we are going to use our straw and we're going to blow through it into the water for exactly 20 seconds. Now we'll measure the pH again after blowing through the straw. Looks like it's 7.75 for our pH. So make sure that you've recorded the pH of the water at the start and the end of our first experiment, and we'll show you soon how you can calculate the change in pH between those 2 points. Before we do that, we will do the same experiment with a container of water that has been heated, so an increase in temperature, and we'll see whether there's a different sort of effect with this experiment. So for this, it's really easy just to use a microwave. Make sure that you're using a microwave safe container, and we can just microwave it in here. So you want to have around a 10-degree increase in your temperature for this experiment. So we've got our heated up container here, which should be around 10 degrees warmer than our first experiment. Yep, so we're about 24.1 degrees, which is great. We're ready to use the straw again. So 20 seconds and then we'll test. So for this sample, we can see that we've got a pH of 7.80. So less of a decrease in pH compared to our previous sample. So with our numbers from sample 2, we can calculate the change in pH on the log scale, which is just subtracting the pH of water at the end of our experiment from the pH of water at the start. So it gives us 0.25 change in pH. And now we can use our chart again to calculate the percentage increase or decrease in hydrogen ions. So that's the end of activity 3A. What you want to do now is discuss the effective temperature on pH for your experiment. For ours, we found that there was less of a decrease of pH when the water was warmer. And so this tells us that in the ocean, when the ocean is warmer, it can't absorb as much CO2. You can then list the human activities that increase CO2 in the atmosphere, and then circle the ones that you do yourself. And then you can lead on to define the word anthropogenic to continue discussions with your group or classroom.